Welcome back to the Air Crown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice sunny Monday. No, not Monday, but Wednesday morning over here from Dubai. All the days just kind of like melt together because it's literally the same thing every day. It's 20 plus degrees, blue skies, and perfect weather every damn day. It's lovely. Anyways, with that said, I want to follow up on yesterday's short-term time frame analysis. Obviously, we hit our first two major targets, that being the $41,000 region and then the $45,000 region. Now expecting that pullback that we saw from yesterday all the way down to just below $43,000. We've gotten that. So what does that mean for the next 24 to 48 hours to come? We'll actually come back here into the crown trading application a little bit later when it is more relevant to the analysis. For right now, I want to just let you know that the premium is live. You can find all of the information about it in the Learn More tab over here under the premium section, which you actually can't see my cursor on right now. At some point when I get back to my regular battle station, I will go over a full-on in-depth video of what it is for and all the things to expect, but for right now that will do it justice. Anyways, with that in mind, let's get on over here. And yes, we did see the move that we were looking for yesterday, or at least a good amount of it. And the question is now that we've hit that first target to the downside off that first major pullback from the 0.5 Fibonacci right here, which is all the way at $45,000 or so, 45.3 to be exact, which is pretty much the high of this rally thus far. Do we expect a greater pullback from what we've already gotten? Well, in this case, I'm actually going to step back, and I would say that it is actually relevant to say that we perhaps could have already seen the totality of that pullback. The reason why I say that is because Bitcoin is showing some signs of reaccumulation right here in the shorter term time frames, as you can see. Now, this is going to be mediated as always by a range resolution. So I'd really pull back my own biases from this and curtail this into a much more simplistic way to understand. Look, any sort of a 2-hour closure, even an hourly closure below 42,500 specifically, and then yes, I would say that Bitcoin's likely to hit that deeper downside target somewhere down around about 41,200 to 41,500. Until then, as long as Bitcoin holds this range, I actually do see some signals of reaccumulation here. Anyways, with that in mind, let's go through short-term time frame stochastic momentum and talk about what would actually constitute as a resolution to the upside with a targeted region all the way up somewhere between about 47,500 to 48,500 or so. And I mean, you can already kind of get it from here. A 4-hour closure above $45,000, or could we even use a 2-hour in this case? If we're going to use a 2-hour, I would say it's going to be $45,100 as a resolution with that target in mind. By the way, short term does look like it wants to give another swipe to the downside at 42.5, which is fine. We do see stochastic momentum over here on specifically the shorter term time frames starting to correct quite significantly. The 4-hour will actually turn back up above 44,600. Obviously, Bitcoin's trading about $1,100 below that right now, so it's not too relevant on this particular closure. And we are still getting corrective reads on BBWP and HVP right here. So, it's not quite there just yet, but, a short-term correction back down to the bottom side of the range is, completely within the cards and actually rather likely right here, to be fair. Anyways, that is what would be necessary on the 4-hour. The 3-hour is going to be showing what? Is going to be showing 43,800. The buy hourly is going to be showing, yes, there we go. It's going to be showing 43,900, which actually Bitcoin's trading about $300 below right now. So that can very much be undone. And the hourly is also going to be, I believe, down below 43,725. So all lower term timeframes are basically on the same side still as downside. While I wouldn't necessarily say that would constitute a likely range resolution of the downside, I do think that it implies another test somewhere down around our lows from yesterday. And then the question is, does Bitcoin close above that 42.5 region or not? If it does, I'm looking for the next targets to the south side to be met, that being about, 41.2 to 41.5 or so. And if not, well, then I do see some signals of reaccumulation right here. Anyways, as far as our BBWP goes here on the 4-hour, we do see it, again, coming down. I want to see this correct a little bit more before I look at this as a matured consolidation. So until that happens, yeah, there is still a threat of a further continuation on that downside move. Here's the thing, though, and what I really want to be on record as saying. Okay, let me actually go to this chart right here. Following this chart, these kind of LARP lines right here, it is rather interesting, right? We did hit the 0.5 major, let me actually just get rid of this, major Fibonacci retracement. So it is very, very likely to pull back from that region. Typically speaking, the target would be the 382 in this case, which is about, that 41.2 to 41.5 target or so. Here's the thing though, I would be looking at this as very likely to print a higher low, meaning, another try to the upside over time, not necessarily today or tomorrow, but probably in the next few weeks, with new targets to the upside somewhere around this region right here, to be fair, as long as, very specific condition right here, as long as Bitcoin is closing dailies above $40,000 or 4-hour timeframes above 39.3. As long as those conditions are met, I do still look at this as likely to print in another higher low and Bitcoin to do something, similar to this, whether we've already put in the low right here, whether it comes down a little bit further, that's completely fine. And then the real question is, what does Bitcoin do between about $48,000 and $50,000 specifically? If we see weakness right there, which we probably very likely will, and a greater pullback that brings Bitcoin down to $40,000, and then bounces and fails after that, because you're very likely going to get a bounce around here, that would be very, very bearish long term, and I would be looking for big bad moves to the downside. At least another test back down to the $35,000 low, maybe even all the way down to the macro lows here at about $29,500 to $31,000. By contrast, if we get something like this, where it bounces up here and then specifically trades back above the 618 at $50,000, I would start to err on the side of macro bullishness, saying that this is your macro correction, and we start to talk about maybe not moon boy targets, but like 50,000, deep 50,000, 60,000, whatever. That'd be relevant again. Until then, let the moon boys and the digital marketers kind of talk about their own things, and we'll be over here talking about like actual trading and tangible setups. That's how I really want to differentiate content on this channel. Anyways, I also forgot to mention, I did mention this, but did I talk about what would happen? Yeah, so if we were to see Bitcoin pull back down and close a daily below $40,000, I would be looking for another move towards $35,000. Very likely, some bounce along the way, but ultimately that would be where I'd be looking for. Anyways, as far as that goes, I do want to reference the higher term time frame signals yet again. So the 5-day right here, so the 5-day on CME, we did see a drive of hidden bullish divergence, a phantom drive right here, be populated. So these phantom drives, they do have a lower hit rate than regular hidden bullish divergence drives, but I do think that it is relevant nonetheless. And it should be known, however, that this is coming within the context of declining volatility. So these are usually not the best signals for what it's worth. I want to be very forthright with saying this, because at the end of the day, it's your decision to do with this as you please. But we do see this also within the context of a 5-day jewel signal building up over here as well, which will be confirmed tonight upon closure at 7 p.m. Eastern time. This is as well a corrective signal within the context of declining BBWP. So if we were seeing this within the context of increasing or expanding BBWP, expanding volatility, then that's kind of like your summer signal. That was the bear trap all the way from $30,000 to $69,000. So that would have made things a lot easier, in my opinion, to kind of call from here. But unfortunately, we don't have that exactly. On top of that, I wanted to comment on this over here. So whilst we already did go through the lower term timeframes, the medium term timeframes are now starting to populate some more corrective signals here as well. 12-hour stochastic momentum will be pointed down below $45,000, and daily will be turning down below about $43,900, which Bitcoin is below right now, about $400 below. So if these start to get printed, we probably do see the lower levels hit first before anything else. But the other higher term timeframes, of which again the 5-day and the 2-day and the 5-day are closing tonight, we see them both vertical still. So higher term timeframes still looking good. So what does that essentially look like? It means, at least in my experience, that means lower term timeframes correct, very likely into higher lows, and then the higher term timeframes take on over. So in this case, the 2-day stochastic momentum remains the upside as long as Bitcoin's above 37,140. That's rather good, I'd say. And then the 5-day is also freshly up still, and that will be remaining to the upside as long as Bitcoin's above $35,000. I'll briefly go through the signal for like the billionth time, but basically we, on this 5-day stochastic momentum signal, we have seen it come down to this 8.5 read, this green horizontal line right here, 4 times in Bitcoin's history, not counting the current one that we're currently working on. They're all denoted by these green vertical lines right here. And the reason why that is relevant is because 3 of those 4 past iterations have been macro cycle lows. I'm talking about this one over here in October 2011. Again, takes months for it to get going, but it does indeed act as the macro cycle low. We have this one over here in January 2015. Again, takes 8 months and even retests it, and then a year later actually starts to get going as well. But that was the low, so to speak. And then of course we have this one over here from December 2018. Again, takes about 3-4 months for it to get going, and indeed goes up from 4,000 to 14,000. 14,000, retest it in March 2020, but again, that was the macro cycle low. Now, of course, there is one iteration where this was a massive bull trap, this being back in October 2014, still produced on a wick-to-wick basis about a 72.5% move, on a closing basis about a 18 to 20% move. So as of right now, which one of it is these? Well, it doesn't, obviously we have no way of knowing right now. Where would we start to confirm this, or where would I start to confirm this as, okay, this is going to be that macro cycle low signal, still probably takes a long time, being that it is a very higher term time frame. Again, it comes back to this chart over here. I need to see a daily closure specifically above the 618 Fibonacci retracement on the macro cycle ranges. That's going to be this area right here at about $50,000. Above there, great. We start to talk about macro cycle lows, and that would be amazing for the Bitcoin bullers out there. So major warning to all of the Bitcoin bears. No, just kidding, man. But for right now, Bitcoin's more in a consolidation range right here. So consolidation, good for the bullers, bad below $40,000, good above $40,000 essentially on the daily. And then short-term corrections, we might see another leg down towards 41.5 if and only if we do lose the 42.5 region that we spoke about earlier. Other than that, is there anything else that I want to be saying around here? Okay, we spoke about a short-term range resolution to the upside as well, right? That would be had with either a 2-hour or an hourly closure above 45.1 or a 4-hour closure above 45 even. The other things that I wanted to get onto here as well were in this chart. But before we do that, is there anything obvious that I'm missing? I feel like I'm missing something obvious right now. Okay, 4-hour, 2-hour. Yeah, I think we got what we were looking for right there. Bitcoin will naturally have hidden bullish divergence on a 4-hour time frame. All the way down to like 41,200 anyways. So again, very, very likely to print a higher low. The question is, where does it? And then we'll come back to it after that. Anyways, into the underlying market dynamics, I want to swing back on over here to end out the video. And we actually won't be talking about open interest today. What I want to reference is the funding rates still being, negative or 0%. We've seen this consistently negative for about 3 weeks now. That has been adding more and more pressure onto obviously shorts who are hodling their positions. So realistically, there's been in totality, there's been a lot of comments about like a short squeeze on this price action. Understand that a short squeeze can really only squeeze shorts who were massively over aggressive, below $40,000, obviously. And those people were either very short-term time frame traders, of which they're probably in and out rather fast, or they were probably very inexperienced traders, of which they probably don't have the equity to actually move the market. So for the people who are calling this a short squeeze, I've still kind of pushed back on a statement like that. What this is likely shorts closing. The smart ones, the ones who actually do have the equity to move the market, were shorting very likely above $50,000 in this segment right here between about November and late December. And those people, are probably taking profits within this region right here. What does it mean when you take profits? What does it mean when you take profits? Obviously, after a major move, well, you're going to be buying if you were shorting. So of course that is also going to help out the upside as well. So not necessarily a short squeeze, but a bit of a misnomer right there. It's kind of like putting up your finger and being like, excuse me, it's actually not, sorry, but I can't help myself, man. Just get so many comments about this and just kind of silly. On top of that, fear and greed index we do see is working its way out of the fearful zone for the first time in about 2.5 months. Very similar fractal relationship between what we saw over the summer with regards to sentiment as well. Again, staying within the fearful zone for about 2.5 to 3 months and then working its way upwards and onwards. Same thing over here as well, as you can see. And then once we kind of got into the ever so slightly greedy zone, just for a second, we did see that next correction. So the question is, are we going to see that from, kind of where we're at right now, or does Bitcoin try a little bit higher? I don't really have a strong opinion on that. It's, that's why we have range resolutions. I think that making any further comment on that before having more evidence on price action is just, it's a very sophomoric way of doing this. On top of that, we do see that the NUPL over here, the net unrealized profit and loss, is printing lower lows alongside what would be higher lows on price action compared to the summer lows, that is. So we do have a divergence there, which is rather interesting. And then on the SOPAR as well, we did see an extreme on the lows, not on the lows, but on the day when we spoke about a bear trap. This was at the end of last week. We actually did see an extreme read right there, which we almost always see on major pivots on price action. For example, the last time that we saw it was, well, the last major bear trap in July of the past year before Bitcoin went from 30,000 to 69,000. The time before that was on the May lows. Whilst Bitcoin did spend a lot more time kind of trading around there, it was the low, obviously. And a couple times before that, we're on these major highs right here as well. So I thought that was rather interesting and a little bit more on the long-term bullish side. But again, long-term bullish side, that can still take a long time, obviously. Anyways, going back on over here, is there anything else that I want to talk about before we end this? Oh, I forgot to look at the 6 hour actually. Forgot to look at the 6 hour over here. What do we see on the 6 hour? Coming back down, we'll turn up above 43.5, or sorry, 45.3. Dyslexia speaking once again. So what does this all kind of align with? It's just a long way of saying that, hey, these ranges right here very likely get the price action for the short term below 42.5 or so on a shorter term time frame closure. Yeah, I'd look for the next leg down somewhere around about 41.2 to 41.5. At that point, that is a big area for myself. If Bitcoin really starts to drop below there on a higher term time frame closing basis, specifically below $40,000, that's when I start to look at this run as likely to be a bull trap rather than have long-term continuation. Until then, I'm actually looking at long-term continuation from here after a bit of a sideways price action consolidation with a short-term range resolution to the upside above about $45,000 with targets up somewhere between about 48, maybe even as much as $50,000 overall. And the last thing that I'll kind of leave you with, maybe even the chart of the day, if you will, is the 3-day time frame. So Bitcoin did close above the white 20 symbol for the first time since, guess when? October of last year, 2021. Alongside that, we did see a weekly, or sorry, not a weekly, but a 3-day MACD cross the upside for the first time since, guess where? That same October region as well. Now keep in mind, this is within the, this is below the zero reads right here. So, that is a bit of a, that is a bit of a counterpoint. But that is also kind of what we saw after the summer move to the upside as well, didn't we? Even in the same area right here, where we got across the upside, Bitcoin trades above the 20 simple into the 55, and then plays out a bit of sideways consolidation, and then upwards and onwards. I think that that's kind of the same thing as what's going on right here as well. So I do think that it is relevant to be looking at Bitcoin as unlikely, or possibly likely to get accumulated within this region. I know a lot of people are looking lower, think that they might be left in the dust if that happens. So I don't think that those targets are relevant until and if and only if Bitcoin does close below this region right here. So yeah, and also on top of that, I mean, even if Bitcoin did come back down around there, it'd just be another backfill in the last 3-day open and very likely a target up towards the 55 over time. Yeah, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope this one serves you well. We'll be back on maybe later if it's relevant to update. Until then, wishing you well as always. Take care and see you hopefully very soon.